No, this isn't the story of Terrare. This is the story of another guy who was also extremely hungry. In fact, he was so hungry all the time that even though he hated vegetables, he would still eat them or would simply consume, like, for example, 2 kilograms or 4.5 pounds of grass each day to satisfy his boundless hunger. This man's name is Charles Domery, and he was alive in 18th century. Even though he has been dead for more than 200 years, there still hasn't been similar hunger cases in all those years besides the Terrare guy, who also lived in 18th century. Charles Domery did say that he grew among 8 brothers who had same appetite, however, they were not recorded in the annals. So how did this freak of nature look? Well, pretty ordinary. Quite tall for the time, around 1 meter and 91 centimeters, or 6.3 feet. He had brown hair, grey eyes, and had a pleasant looking face. Also, for a dude who ate more than 10 men, he was quite feeble. He lacked muscle mass, however, as a soldier, he was capable of marching for 42 kilometers or 25 miles a day. He seemingly had no problems with health, besides one problem: he was sweating like a madman when he was eating and during sleep. For 10 years, France was waging wars against half of Europe. Charles Domery was Polish and served in Prussian army, but he was so hungry all the time that he was dissatisfied with Prussian food rations. So what does he do? He naturally goes to enemy French army where rations are bigger. He was rewarded with a melon which he ate immediately, including the outside skin. French were kind and doubled his rations, but it still wasn't enough, so the guy had to spend his soldier's wage on the food. Later he was serving on a 74-gun ship of the line of the French Navy called Donegal. During fierce battle with the British, one sailor lost his leg. Charles was like 5-second rule, thrown himself to the leg, tried to eat it, but other sailors wrestled him off the leg and threw the limb overboard into the sea. Anyway, the ship together with Charles was captured by the British, which had no idea what kind of beast was lurking inside. When they took him into the prison camp, British guards were like, "What the hell is this guy?" Even though he was a prisoner, they had to double his rations, but these were just not enough. So they eventually gave him rations which were enough to feed 10 men. That's like 8 kilograms of bread, 2 kilograms of vegetables, half of kilogram of butter, or 2 kilograms of cheese. Nope, still not enough. He was still hungry, so he resorted to eating poor prison's cat and many unfortunate rats which strayed into his cell. By the way, this is not the only cat he did dirty. He had previously devoured 172 cats, dead or alive, in 1 year. Basically, no animal was safe. Dogs were also consumed. When there were no rats or cats in his prison cell, he resorted to eating prison candles. Many prisoners were generous enough to give him part of their rations to Charles. I suspect that they fed him to stay alive. Such feats were noticed by a Dr. J. Johnson, which wanted to test Charles. At 4 a.m., he was woken up with a grand view of a raw cow's udder in front of him. Without a delay, the guy swallowed entire cow boob and went back to sleep. 5 hours later, he was given 2.3 kilograms or 5 pounds of raw beef and half a kilo worth of candles, which he annihilated. It was noted how voraciously he attacked his food, resembling of a hungry wolf. When his throat felt dry, he lubricated it with candle wax. A bit later, he was given the same thing, including the candles. During this whole ordeal, Charles never went to a toilet. Doctors noted how after test, Charles went back to his quarters in a jolly good mood. He smoked a pipe and even danced a little. Sadly, next day at 4 a.m. he woke feeling hungry again. How can we explain this mystery? Why he was so hungry all the time? Well, we simply can't. Never ever since this guy and Tarare there was a patient with such constant need of food. Well, it could be some rare case of polyphagia, which is a symptom where people feel abnormal sense of hunger. But such extreme polyphagia was recorded only few times, so there were no way to research the underlying cause. Sadly, it's not known what later happened to Charles. He may stayed in England or he may returned to Poland. However, 50 years later, he briefly appeared like a Marvel character in the end of the movie. He appeared in Charles Dickens' note where Dickens expressed his encounter with a strange hungry man with a name Dormery. Dickens said, "Now it's in my opinion that a man like this dining in a public on the stage of Drury Lane would draw much better than a mere tragedian, would choose unsubstantial words instead of wholesome beef." Basically saying that if this guy ended up on the stage, he would get more admiration than some actor. What I find strange is how similar Charles and Tarare cases are. Charles and Tarare both lived at the same time and were a similar age. Both served in French Revolutionary Army. Their extreme hunger cases are the only cases known in history, so for more than 250 years there hasn't been a single case of such hunger, even though billions of people lived and died during those years. Then a mere tragedian How the fuck do you say this?